Okay, good morning. My name is Paul Weston. I'm the chairman of the British Freedom Party. And the reason we called the meeting this morning is we are bringing on board Stephen Lennon and Kev Carroll from the EDL. This has been talked about for a good few months now, and a lot of toing and froing, but we finally got it together. So today is the day that Tommy and Kev come over to British Freedom as joint deputy leaders. And Tommy, I'd like to give you your membership card. Kev.
Thank you.
From our point of view, from the English Defence League, it's now the British Freedom Party shares our ideologies completely. This will now give so many people come up to us in the street, support what we do, but are fearful of coming to demonstrations, fearful of losing their jobs, and this now gives us a political voice, a non-racist political voice, which Britain's primed for, and we need an anti-Islamist political party. And I've met with Paul. I was impressed meeting with Paul. It's the first time I can actually relate with someone who actually fits a politician's bill. And if we can combine working class England with middle England, which we will appeal to working class England, we can go to any working class community in the whole country and relate with them, because we are them. And if we can be the first political party to combine middle England with working class England, we'll have a winning formula. We're not saying it's going to, I don't personally, we don't know where it's going to go, but we want to put everything into it. The same way we've dedicated our lives into the English Defence League, we're now going to dedicate our lives to the British Freedom Party and try and change the course of what route we're going down.
We think it's time that there's a new party, a new breath of fresh air to engage in politics and challenge the main three parties. We feel that they've let this country down incredibly badly. It's pathetic, the state of the country now. No one's talking about the elephant in the room, and we are about to engage those parties and challenge them, and challenge the Sharia and the Islamists, and stand up for this country's values and traditions and Christianity itself. We feel that Christianity is being marginalised, not only in this country but in Europe, and we hope to influence the general public. We feel that we'll have them on side, and this country is primed for a new breath of fresh air.
There's 50% of people in this country approximately don't vote. That's us, and working class England. And no one votes because there's no one to vote for. Because the working class community has been completely let down, and we just hope that we can drill people up and get them voting and get them to support. And to be honest, I've just seen them talking about Luton. The major three positions in Luton Borough Council, Councillor Joan Bailey, one of the only people I have any faith in the town hall. The main three have stepped down, and now we have three Kashmir Pakistani men stepping in. Now, the head of cohesion is going to be Pakistani Kashmir men. We need a voice in that town hall. They don't talk to us. As we've heard Hazel Simmons say, they won't even talk to us. They sit down and have tea biscuits with Islamists, with extremists, but they refuse to talk to the English Defence League. And whether they like it or not, it'll be next May now, but we'll be challenging in Luton. And I think it's going to cause a storm.
So you said you're going to stand in a forthcoming local election?
We will be standing people across the country in all elections. And for the first time, I know the Tories couldn't find anyone to stand in Luton. So we spoke to them. They couldn't find someone to stand up as a councillor. We'll have people queuing up.
But will you yourself be standing, or you?
Yes, I mean, Councillor Joan Bailey, she was elected on just 900 votes, I believe.
We will be standing.
We could get that just from this estate.
We will be standing.
So effectively, is this the end of the EDL?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not. It's the start of the British Freedom Party. I'm going to stay as leader of the English Defence League because we do what we do. We put pressure, we bring awareness, we bring media.
There are parallel.
We put a microscope on problems. We highlight issues, and we're a pressure group. We'll continue to do that. But now, what this is, it just shows that the British Freedom Party will share the complete ideologies of the English Defence League.
People will make comparisons with the BNP. What
Yeah,
would you say about that?
They always have done. They always will.
The
It's always going to be a stick they
BNP,
beat us with.
the BNP, the leadership of the BNP, not necessarily it's a sad state of affairs when 2 million people had to vote for a Nazi, because that's what Nick Griffin is. 2 million people were that desperate that had to vote for a Nazi. Now this will be a breath of fresh air for people, because what the English Defence League's done is separated that. Everyone knows we're not racist. Everybody knows we're not racist. We hate Nazis. Nazism, Islamism, opposite sides of the same coin. We've fought for 3 years, people calling us Nazis, calling us racist. We're now at a stage where people know what we stand for. We stand against an ideology. And that's the same as the British Freedom Party. people will know automatically. We already know. We've got West Indian support, we've got Sikh support, we've spoken to all leaders of all communities, they're all supporting this.
The British Freedom Party is nothing like the British National Party. We're open to all colours, we're open to homosexuals. We are an absolutely tolerant party, but we are going to talk about Islam, which nobody else talks about. So we are not the BNP, we are a moderate face of concerned Britons.
And what makes up the English Defence League, which is what it has, is everyone that's at risk from Islam, from the ideologies of Islam. And that's the same. People flock to the British Freedom Party who are worried, because this is...
Everybody's terrified of the religion of peace.
People are terrified.
So we're not going to tolerate that any longer, and we're not going to pretend there's not an elephant in the room. We're going to deal with it. We're going to grab the bull by the horns, and we're going to tackle these problems, unlike our politicians.
In our early days, we thought that the major three parties may listen to how people feel, but my thinking is that only when we start taking the percentage of their votes, I don't think we'll get in power, but I think when they see that, they'll start swaying to that side. The same way Sarkozy's doing it now, because he knows where the vote's coming from. And that's all we want to do. We want Luton to be back how it was, and not what's happening to it now. What's happening in Luton is wrong. The future's not any brighter. I've got 3 kids here. I'm terrified for their future with what's happening in the town. No one's dealing with it. Up on this estate, people are getting attacked. Women are living on the estate in fear from Muslim gangs. When they've tried to set a meeting with councillors, which is, as councillors, you have to listen to what people want to say, and you have to listen to your community. They refuse to even listen to them. They refuse to even talk to us.
She won't even sit in the same room with me. She refused to, in a radio interview, the leader of Luton Borough Council refused to sit in the same room to do an interview. She called me a Nazi and a racist. She said she wouldn't sit in the room with a Nazi and a racist. My daughter's mixed race. I know most of the West Indian community in this town, the Hindus, the Sikhs. You know, this is ridiculous. This is just the game they play. I'm from this. I live on this estate. I raised my daughter on this estate. There is a massive amount of intimidation and fear on the streets from Muslim Pakistani youth. It's ongoing. The police know about it. The council are pretending it doesn't exist. Whenever we try to raise our fears and concerns, we try to hold a meeting in our local community centre. We printed leaflets. We delivered them on the Tuesday night all around the whole estate. 2,500 leaflets. 9:30 the next morning, 20 police officers, 20 community workers from the council were walking around the estate, delivering leaflets, cancelling our meeting about our concerns about the crime on the estate and the lack of response from the police and the council. Now, you couldn't make this up. Right? It's farcical. And this is what we're living under on this estate alone. And if you take that as a perspective of what's going on around the town, of what's going on around the country in different estates and cities and towns, it's ludicrous, and it has to be dealt with. People are just refusing to tackle the problem.
Let's talk about dealt with and tackle the problem. What does that look like to you?
Well, you have to. What does it look like?
Yeah. How do you deal with
police each community equally? Like
no two-tier police.
Up on this estate, we sit down with women who are crying, sitting crying their eyes out because they're living in fear, and that's the truth. And we've introduced Islamic leaders to them. I said, do you want to see why we're angry? Do you want to come up and meet the people why we're angry? Come and speak to the 15-year-old white autistic lad that was battered on this estate by 10 Muslims. Come chat to the 16-year-old boy who come to visit his nan from Dunstable and got 27 stitches around that corner. Come and speak to the woman who, because she's getting abused by the Muslim youth in the alley, which they're always in the alley, the police have told her to walk a different route to the shops. No, she shouldn't have to walk a different route to the shops. The police should police this estate. You can't get a police officer up here to deal with Islamic crime. And that's what it is. You've got hostile Islamic youth attacking non-Islamic youth, and then the school aren't dealing with it. You've got young non-Muslim kids there being bullied, being attacked, and the school brushing it under the carpet. They can't even identify the problem. You're not going to solve the problem unless you identify it, and identifying it is that we have now got new immigrants coming into this estate that are hostile. They're hostile. And when they talk about communication and community, there is a community, and you're breaking it. And
there's already an existing community, and I've raised my daughter on this estate for 23 years. They keep talking about the different communities, and we're trying to a massive influx of Muslim Pakistanis and immigrants into this estate. Now, there is already an existing community that's been here for decades and decades, and it gets a lot tickety-boo. There's no problems. Everyone's happy doing what they're doing until the massive influx of Muslim Pakistanis and immigrants onto this estate, and all of a sudden the crime figures have gone through the roof. That 15-year-old boy was mugged on my road. 10 Pakistani youth. They broke his jaw. He's autistic. He hasn't been out of the house for 3 years. His mother bought him a brand new iPhone and a bicycle to promote him to go out the house just for half an hour. He did The first time he went out of the house in 3 years, he was beaten so badly, perforated eardrum, broken jaw, his phone taken, his bike taken.
They've now moved that far.
2 weeks the police took to respond to that. His mother and his uncle were so sickened by what happened, the response and the response from the police, that they had to print their own leaflets and deliver them through letterboxes in this estate, saying, basically, if you have a child on this estate and they're attacked by Muslim youth and robbed and beaten, do not call the police because you will not get a response.
So you're seriously saying that the police respond in a different way?
Listen,
it's a fact.
When this happened to this boy, and we got the leaflets and spoke to the family, in the newspaper, there was a witness appeal for a mugging in which a white man was involved. Yeah? So then, only when we rang the police and only when we've rang the local papers have they then made a witness appeal. Now, why is it taken that? Why have they not automatically made a witness appeal for these 10 Muslims who have racially attacked a young boy? What, do you know why there was no appeal? Because DC Mohammed Hussein is dealing with it. And we've sat and spoke to families...
From the race hate crime.
He said the race hate. We spoke to families who he has convinced them, you can speak to him, he has convinced them not to go through with the charges because of repercussions. And that's not the police's job. You're supposed to press charges, you're supposed to deal with these issues. And he's convincing them not to. And you can speak to the families. There's another girl who hasn't left the house for 3 years because of it. So people say about frustrations, I say, well, come and speak to them. And the council won't even come and speak to them. They set a meeting up, and when the meeting was set up, it wasn't English Defence League, it was the Farley Hill Community Initiative, which is made up of Hindu shopkeeper, Turkish Muslim chip shop. All the different shops come together, and they won't even come up and talk to them. They won't even come up and address these issues.
And when we tried to book our community centre,
they put a block
our
for 3
community
months.
centre, on our estate, just here next door, they blocked us out. They said no. And we said, well, give us we said, what day is it booked? Is it not booked? They said, it's just booked. We said, all right, let's put it like this. Tell us when it's not booked and we'll work from there. It's just booked.
3 months. You're not allowed to book it for free.
They won't even, the council won't even let us use our own community centre to have a meeting about a crime on this estate and the lack of response from the police and the council. But the next day, they can have 20 police officers and 20 community workers running around playing postal service.
And the whole reason they sent me the leaflet.
They
sent me the leaflet saying why we weren't allowed the meeting, and it's because it didn't fit their Luton in Harmony programme, because we wanted to talk about Islamic crime.
And they said they couldn't cope with the numbers.
It didn't fit with their community cohesion.
Everybody on this estate was come to that meeting, because on this estate there are people that will not leave their homes because of fear and intimidation.
Mr.
And that's
Weston,
a fact.
can I ask, are you the Nick Clegg figure in all this, getting into a coalition where you just are not sure what on earth you're getting into?
We've been talking about this for a long time. We know exactly what we're getting into. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Can they bring credibility to your party?
They certainly can, yes. I think when you've seen Tommy on Newsnight, I was expecting someone like Jeremy Paxman to have him for breakfast. And he's a very articulate man, and he essentially out-argued because he was talking about reality and facts with Paxman. I think it's a fantastic addition, the pair of them, and it also unites this, something that a lot of parties don't have. You know, the Labour Party has betrayed the working man of this country, and they don't have a voice anymore. And if I can go out there and appeal to some of the more aware middle-class people who are actually know what's going on with Islam in this country, they're not in the same volume as the working class because they're living amongst it. So with Tommy and Kev, we get a lot of working class vote. Hopefully I can bring in some middle class vote. And this is something that doesn't really exist in any political party right now.
So what will you say then to all those people who currently brand the EDL as racist, that you are racist?
We simply stand on what we say. You know, our party is open to all races. We have no problem with that. We don't have a problem with any other race. We don't have a problem with Islam, but we do recognise that there is a growing threat as the demographics grow in this country. You know, there were only 80,000 Muslims here in 1980. There are 3 million now. They've been doubling every decade. Now you take that forward 2 more decades, you've got 6 million, 12 million, 24 million.
So if I was a Muslim listening to you say this, I'd be terrified.
Can I just say something? We're not against Muslims. I think the wires are getting crossed here. I've got nothing against Muslims, and I'm sure that the lads here haven't either. It's not about human beings. It's about an ideology. It's about jihadists. It's about fundamentalists. It's about extremists. It's about an extremist ideology. That's what it's about. It's not about hard-working individual Muslims that get up every day and do what everybody else does, work, pay their taxes. It's not a demonisation of Muslims. It's tackling Islam and its extremist format. That's what it's about. Jihadists, fundamentalists.
Saudi funded. It's taking it back to the 7th century.
There's a big difference, you know, and it's Sharia. That's what it's about. If you want Sharia, if you're a Muslim and you want Sharia implemented into this country, then we have a major, major problem.
And 40%, surveys suggest 40% of Muslims want Sharia law in this country. Now, when those demographics get up in years to come, that is going to be a huge problem.
They'll use democracy.
You're hearing a whisper for a Sharia law now. In our children's future, the first time I sat down with Kadir Bask from Luton Islamic Centre, he said to me, Tommy, Sharia law will not come in your lifetime. It may not come in your son's lifetime. It will be the generation after that.
But it's
So I said,
happening. It's happening.
It's happening.
We know Sharia law is happening in this country, but Sharia law means killing meat in a halal way. Sharia law means having Sharia
Oppression of
courts
women. Oppression of women.
divorces and things like that.
Stoning women, cutting off their hands and limbs.
We've got 100,000 women who
Genital mutilation.
who have
It's backward.
Exactly.
Retarded.
And they are being taken out of the country over the school summer holidays to do this, back to Pakistan to do this.
No one's ever been tried. No one's ever been charged.
This is a
you need to
crime
protect-
against humanity, and it comes under the whole code of Sharia.
Sharia is all-encompassing.
And when you say it comes on marital issues, it's like we have women's rights in this country. They fought for decades for equal rights, and under these Sharia law courts, they get 50% less of a man. Their child automatically gets taken off them as soon as it gets to the age of 8. The father automatically gets custody, automatically. Whether he's a good dad or not, he automatically gets custody. This is happening now in Britain. It's not right, and no one dare talk about it because it comes under cultural sensitivity. The same way with these terrorist raids around the corner on Farley Hill. Well, the police went in with full cultural sensitivity. We don't want you to go in with cultural sensitivity. We want you to go in and do your job. And go in and why are you worrying about cultural sensitivity when you're going into a terrorist house? Who was planning to blow up the Territorial Army on Marsh Road?
And one of the other problems coming in with this is Saudi money. When their grandparents first came to this country, they were probably very grateful to be here. But you've got this growing demographic, youth demographic at the moment, and they're going into these mosques and madrasas. 90,000 million Saudi petrodollars has been poured into Europe over the last 30 years, and they are promoting not some softer version that you might have of Islam in Morocco. They are promoting hardline Wahhabist ideology. And it runs counter to every single item on a human rights bill you care to look at. And they're promoting this in this country today. And it's a terrible, growing problem.
Tommy, what is your personal political ambition?
To make a change.
How can you do that just as a Vice Chairman of the British Freedom Party? You surely have to put yourself forward for election, do you?
Yeah, we will put ourselves forward for it.
You personally?
So we'll be able to Stephen Lennon MP.
Well, hopefully. You're going to vote?
But is that the aspiration?
The aspiration is that I think a lot of people who have never even bothered or thought about voting will get out and vote. I think it will. And that is the aspiration. I always thought, when we first started, I thought we'll be able to put pressure and the major three political parties will listen. But they don't. And when you look why they don't, because they're all in bed for the Saudi petrol money. None of them will even talk about Islam. No, they own 48% of our stock market. Every port in this country, 40% of Sainsbury's, Barclays. No one can.
But you won't be sitting in chambers debating, basically.
I didn't want to. I never wanted to be a politician. But at the same time, I do want to make a change. And that's why now this just gives other people an option that are fearful, that they can now tick a box. And everyone will know that this political party will say what needs to be said.
Does it concede in some way that your demonstrations, well, they happen all over the country and attracted thousands upon thousands of people, that they're not actually getting anywhere? You're not achieving
Muslim
anything.
paedophile gangs are getting smashed in every single city by British police. They've been ignored for 20 or 30 years. When did they start getting smashed? When we stood in city centres and started telling everyone what was happening to our daughters and our sisters in the States and the towns like Luton. That's when they started getting smashed. We don't want credit, but it's making a change. Behind closed doors and corridors across this country, there's meetings where they are now recognising you have forgotten the working class. You have in this town, the funding has been unfair to the Islamic community. Everything has been unfair. That's it. And only now are they making things and then trying to make a change within Luton Borough Council to treat everybody equally. The police, there's a two-tier policing system. And it needs to be equal. It needs to be equal. You can't be a victim of both sides. Our community get treated with iron fists, and the Islamic community get treated with kid gloves, and that's just how it is. And everybody knows it. Anyone growing up in towns like this knows it. That can't carry on.
Just to typify
and we don't want special treatment. We want equal treatment.
Talking of special treatment, they're allowed to park outside their mosques on double yellow lines, no parking tickets. Synagogues, Catholic churches, Gurdwaras, we all get parking
There's
tickets.
concessions
Why
for the
is that?
Islamic community.
It's constant concessions. It's double standards right across the board. And that has to stop.
And it's
one law, one nation, one people.
Apartheid's been defeated and it's being brought back. You've got Muslim-only swimming days down Bath Road. We don't want that. We want integration. You're not going to get integration and you're not going to solve the problem if you can't even identify it.
Kev, that slogan that you just mentioned, one law, one country, one people.
One nation, one law.
You know what that has echoes of?
No, what I mean echoes. What I'm trying to say is what I mean is double standards. I mean, you can bandy words and put it any way you like, but what I'm trying to say is we want. There's British rule of law.
See, I don't know.
No, see, there's British rule of law, and everybody has to adhere to it. We don't want Sharia law. That's not going to happen. Right? It's a 7th century backward dogma. So what we're saying is that everybody should be treated equally, no matter what race, ethnicity, religion. Everybody needs to be treated equally. Level playing field, because at the minute we haven't got it.
It's equality
double
before
standards.
the law. As simple as that.
And everybody must obey the laws of this land. Not foreign laws, the laws of this land. That's what I'm saying. So you try and make something out of it that it isn't.
No, I was just making sure that you were aware of the connotation that
connotations. Well, you know, you still have to speak, and then you can make connotations. But at the end of the day, all I want and all we want is a fair, level playing field for everybody.
There are no Nazi connotations about making a statement that you think in England we should be living with equality before the law.
The Luton Borough Council's corrupt as hell.
It's the most corrupt council in the country.
Everyone knows it.
It's unbelievably corrupt.
Every single time. Everything.
And they just want to sweep everything in the carpet. So, you know, we're tackling this, we're stepping up to the plate, and we've been doing it for 3 years. Before any of these Defence League started, no one would even talk about these subjects. They were hot potatoes. No one would even talk about this. And now it's sending shockwaves through the corridors of power. So it's doing something, and we've achieved a lot. The Times newspaper, they printed seven pages.
Have you read the Luton News this week? The front page of Luton News is something about a bus route. Okay, page 15 is about 4 terrorists planning to blow up the territorial army. Page 2 is about us. And so when you read the paper, it's like they're trying to portray like we're the problem. You've got thousands of Muslims coming out today to march against us. Why don't you march against the 4 people from your community who are planning to blow things up? Why don't you march against the extremists? When are you going to come out on the streets in outrage against what your fellow Muslim brothers are doing? When is that going to happen? You're all quick to come out on the streets about anything else. And when we talk about equal rights and equal opportunities, in February, thousands of Muslims marched through our town centre, straight through the middle of town, around the town hall, straight through St George's Square, beating themselves with no tops on. Okay? Now, to the non-Islamic community, that's intimidating. Okay? We don't come out and counter-protest it. We let them do that. And we just want to march through our town, the same way they did in February. Now, why can't we? But they can. That's the problem. We're treated completely differently. And where are all our councillors today? They're out down on the other march.
So is today your first political march with the EDL?
No, I've been out with them before.
But this will have the feel of more of a political march than previous marches we've seen, or
not
pretty much the same?
Not for me, no.